All right, so we got through the Court of Arcadia, and now it is time to come back. And why don't we get into... Oh, hey, Chaotic Blue. Aha! Caught you lurking, you made some noise. That's your last mistake, Chaotic Blue. It's your last mistake ever. This is quite the hat, Scared. It's like a hat and a scarf in one, huh? This might work a little better. Very festive. Thank you very much, Chaotic Blue. And welcome to you. The Court of the Elements. The Lady of Brass is a notorious adventurer who often takes her floating castle of fire into other planes to do battle with tyrants. In her absence, she leaves her home plane of Quintessence and its great city, Alloy, in the hands of her personal guard, the Court of Elements. The Court patrol Alloy, the Burning City, the City of Four Elements, and enforce the Lady's Law. Beings from across the timescape come to Alloy, and many bring their grudges with them. The Lady has spent eons building Alloy's reputation as a neutral city, open to trade and available for lore masters seeking knowledge not available on their home plane. The Court of Elements enforce this order, ensuring the safety of visitors unless they come seeking conflict. Fire motes. These motes are elemental sprites, tricksters, mischievous imps who enjoy sticking their noses into other people's business, harassing anyone who looks suspicious until the more puissant authorities arrive. We're getting in some good vocab here. I mean, including Scare over here dropping milieu. The fire motes in particular enjoy tormenting spellcasters, teasing them, trying to provoke them into using their spells and violating the strict rules of Alloy. Basically, the fire motes try to frame wizards visiting the Burning City. But the fire motes argue if these magic users can be provoked into violence by something as harmless as a mote, what might they do if they became seriously angry? Keep those fingers holstered, spellslinger. Tactics. The fire mote has an instinctive awareness of which enemies on the battlefield rely on concentration spells and move into their space, making their life as annoying as possible. And that's probably from the fact that it's going to force a bunch of saves against different attacks here. It just keeps going poke, 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 poke with its fiery finger. The Source of Earth. The sources hover at the crossroads of Alloy, pronouncing the Lady's Law and reminding citizens of important dates. They can also be depended upon to grant aids to newcomers, including help as mundane as directions. The Sources of Earth seem most to enjoy helping visitors, and while their pronouncements are booming and melodramatic, they are enthusiastic about their task. The closest sage specializing in mirror magic can be found on the Oradan Way, where it intersects High Street. Tried to have a fun gravelly voice there. The Sources of Earth act as vigilant sentinels, stoning anyone seen committing a crime or running from a representative of the law. They are the hovering, eternal watchmen of Alloy. Tactics. The Source of Earth hovers over the battlefield with only 10 feet of movement, but buffs allies with diamond skin to ensure enemies, and turns enemies to stone with back to earth. It uses Wall of Stone to change the shape of the battlefield, protecting allies or dividing enemies. It's mostly a support unit, but it can turn an enemy to stone with a pretty beefy DC. CR6. Wall of Stone once per day here. Source of Earth gazes upon an enemy within 30 feet. If the Target's body is made of flesh, the target must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature magically begins to turn to stone and is restrained. At the end of its next turn, it must repeat the saving throw. On a success, the effect ends. On a failure, the creature is petrified until freed by the Greater Restoration spell or other magic. Aha. Hey, I gotta work these in too. You know, if this Matt can do clever writing, can I at least sneak a pun in every now and again? You know us, Matts. And here is our water entry, a pillar of water. If the sources are watchmen of alloy, the pillars are the jailers. They spring from the ground, imprisoning those caught violating the law of the lady. Like the sources, they have an attitude, but not much actual personality. In the city of Alloy, the pillars imprison suspected criminals, awaiting the arrival of a magistrate. When summoned to the mundane world, the pillars obey the commands of the concordant who summoned them. Remember, a concordant is an adventurer who owns the temple and has appeased their patron as a warlock or their deity as a cleric enough to get a servitor. Mundane world. Release the prisoners holding concordance demand. Okay. The pillars of water are generally skeptical of those imprisoned, assuming openly that they must have done something to piss off the sources. They may believe anyone they trap must be guilty of something and leave the judging to the magistrates. As with the knights and sources, there are many different pillars not described here. Pillars of fire, pillars of earth, but pillars of water are most common. In times of great distress, when the city of Alloy is threatened, they are known to join together to create a massive gestalt entity to defend this, the most diverse city in the timescape. During the battle at the Doors of Morning, when the Lady of Brass lost her greatest general, the Pillars of Water joined the battle by forming the tidal wall, a great unstoppable wave said to be 100 feet tall. Thanks to this overwhelming display and the work and effort of the rest of the elemental court, the city held. Tactics. The pillar can imprison up to 4 creatures, but it doesn't have to. If there's one enemy causing a lot of problems, especially one with low dexterity, drop the pillar on them. Remember to use Reform to get the pillar where it needs to be. The pillar can also proactively defend allies by using Constant Flood to prevent enemies from getting into melee. And I do like how the AI programming is in plain speak. Look, you are a DM, you want to run this monster, or if you're a PC and you're summoning this and the control of it has been given to you, this is its AI. This is how it was designed to function under normal circumstances, such as that may exist. A Knight of Air. The Knights of Alloy enjoy the privilege of being neutral in the conflicts that rage across the timescape. Because Alloy is neutral ground, the Knights are often seen in the company of visiting members of the Court of Arcadia, especially the Mantis Knights or the Orchid Count, or the Knights of Axiom. Even the unchanging changers from the Court of All Flesh are welcome. The Knights of Fire seem to enjoy the company of Korsoth Vastican especially. The Knights keep tabs on the most powerful visitors to Alloy. While within city walls, they have a sixth sense that alerts them to the presence in the city of newcomers who are able to cause a lot of trouble. Presuming they've sobered up from the previous night's festivities, the Knights will check on the newcomer to make sure they're behaving. The Knights of Fire make no pretense of hiding while doing this, but the Knights of Air are skilled at following powerful entities without them knowing it, like an invisible stalker you'll find in the monster manual. Should violence threaten, the Knights can instantly summon a source and a pillar, though this power is granted them only by the city of Alloy. Tactics. A Knight of Air is pretty straightforward, relying primarily on the Sword of Clouds, which, apart from its cool name, has no other extraordinary property. Its spells are situational with no tactical theme. Wind Wall will section off a battlefield and pummel anyone caught in it, protecting allies. The Wind Lords, as the Knights of Air are sometimes called, use a gaseous form to protect an ally. Hey, Rhodium, welcome. Yep, that's... We are going on an elemental journey, Rhodey. Otherwise, the Wind Lords use their high armor class and crazy good movement to get where they need to engage enemies in melee, often blowing right past enemies, enduring attacks of opportunity, relying on their plate and shield to survive. A Storm Magistrate. The Magistrates of the Burning City are the priests and judges of the Lady of Fire. The moats, sources, and knights are diagnosticians. They identify and evaluate the problem. The Lords of Storm cure it. Exactly as high and mighty as you would expect them to be, the Magistrates are a cruel and bastardly bunch, enjoying their power, using it casually, some say recklessly. They give no thought to the consequences of their actions. They assume the sources, pillars, and knights have done their jobs and identified a criminal. The Magistrates arrive, ready to prosecute. You have done well. You have done nothing of value in your short and meaningless life. Take this opportunity to at least die well. Tactics. The Magistrates know that when they are called to the mundane world, it is to aid the Concordant and damn their enemies. Many of the Stormlord's spells help the PCs. Enhance ability, mass cure wounds, freedom of movement. But just as many are offensive. Flame Strike is a classic opening. Banishment can handle enemy servitors summoned by evil priests and warlocks. The Magistrate's deadliest weapon is Storm Strike, which combines chain lightning with some radiant damage. Use this as soon as the Magistrate arrives to maximize the number of rolls you'll get on the recharge, increasing the likelihood you'll get to use it again. Very straightforward AI for the creatures. Storm Magistrate, bada boom, look at that, huh? CR9. The High Templar of Dust. The High Templars serve the Lady of Brass, but unlike the rest of the Court of Elements, they were not created by her. They were the original elemental lords who dwelled on the plane of quintessence before the arrival of the Lady. Before the construction of Alloy, the City of Brass began, when quintessence was a wasteland. The beings who would become the High Templars were formless creatures then, cursed by primordial forces as punishment for some ancient war they were on the losing side of. They do not speak of this, though it is clear they remember it. The Lady of Brass arrived and gave them form and substance, and for this they pledged their lives to her. They are her fanatical death commandos, willingly giving their lives if necessary and sacrificing their eternal being to aid her. They are grim and taciturn. It appears they resent being summoned, but do their duty in the name of the Lady. Concordant, our queen commands me to aid you, and this I have done. This world of yours is pain for us. Do not ask more of me, for I have no more to give. I leave. Tactics. The High Templar of Dust focuses on movement, moving through enemies to use its Scour ability, damaging everyone standing around with Sandstorm, and generally wading into enemies. Its armor class isn't amazing, but it has a lot of hit points and should survive a few rounds of punishment. It tends to fire off lightning and fire before engaging in melee with its halberd. Sandstorm, nice AoE effect. Hurls balls of fire, lightning attack. There we go. Dust given form. All right. So here is an RP introduction into Gemstone Dragons. Which you may recall, these... I don't know if they had a 4th edition rendition. I'm fairly certain that gemstones were brought up in one of the monster manuals in 3rd edition, as they were represented as the... as they were represented in... they were like the neutral line, if I recall correctly. I mean, we'll discover here what this is presenting for the notion of gemstone dragons. A long-forgotten branch of the Draco genus, Draco crystallis are primarily hexapods, like their more common cousins Draco metallis and Draco chromaticus. They are older than the other draconic genii, which accounts for their wider diversity in body type. Many long ago abandoned their wings or let them atrophy, relying instead on their innate mental powers to lift and propel them telekinetically. They are now rare, hunted for their gemstones that grant them, and for a brief time anyone who holds one, their psionic powers. Many have slumbered or hidden from civilizations for many thousands of years, only awakening during times of catastrophic need. They are sages and hoard knowledge rather than treasure, and so are often found in or near ancient libraries. Their crystalline structure grants them enhanced speed and agility, their nerve impulses being conducted by the piezoelectric effects rather than mere chemical signals. As a result, they are more agile, and their quasi-crystalline skin grants them natural armor. Weapons spark and chip jeweled fragments off their hides, but find little purchase there. They're harder to hit and damage, but have less raw health than their metallic and chromatic cousins. They are the keepers of forgotten lore and rarely take sides in the battles between good, evil, law, and chaos. Rather, they act to preserve the world, or knowledge, or to prevent dangerous knowledge from falling into any hands. They come in every flavor of neutral alignment, but if one is neutral good, they're more neutral good than neutral good, if you take my meaning. Unlike their more barbaric cousins, they rarely have an affinity for one type of terrain over another, the emeralds being an exception, and so their lairs can be found anywhere: caves, dungeons, libraries, cities, clouds, pocket dimensions. There's no such thing as a typical gemstone dragon lair. Psionics. The gemstone dragons are silico-organic organisms. When hatched, they are almost entirely organic. As they grow, their crystalline structure grows, as does their psionic power. The crystals that grow on and thread through their bodies form a network of psionic filaments that capture, conduct, amplify, and store charges of psionic energies, which the dragons then convert into manifestations. Each dragon begins with a number of charges based on their age. They can expend these charges to cast any psionic manifestation. Many of these manifestations have a base cost and can be enhanced by expending more charges. Over time, the dragon's crystal conduct more psionic energies into its body, recharging its power. At the end of each round, roll the recharge die and restore that many charges. Each dragon also has a fracture rating. Each time it takes more damage than its fracture rating from a single attack, its crystalline form fractures. Diminishing its ability to recharge its power. Roll the recharge die and reduce the dragon's total charges by the result. This damage heals itself upon finishing a long rest. Hey, Estwild! I kind of like all dragons being more neutral, so then you can use the colors that most people will never fight. Yeah, and this can lead Estwild into the great what is alignment debate. You know, can you have nature versus nurture? Can you have a good red dragon, or can you have an evil brass dragon? You know, a manipulative one. You know, so, but I'm stuttering here. With the groundwork that's been presented in this with the groundwork that's been presented in this book, Mr. Colville does say, look, I have these old school notions of alignment, and, you know, and so I'm presenting them in that fashion. If you think differently, I totally get that. And so in this case, we could have evil gem dragons. Or we can, you know, we can think of different ways to mix it up. Or is a fracture rating? Manifestations. Psionic charges are used to manifest psionic abilities. These manifestations are the primary source of a gemstone dragon's power. All manifestations have a range of 30 feet unless noted otherwise. The following manifestations are by no means the only ones the dragons have access to. It is known that the most powerful gemstone dragons can alter their form at will in a manner that defies all inspection. But these are the most well-documented and commonly used manifestations available. They can amplify. Dragon focuses the power of its mind, wreathes its teeth, claws, and glowing sonic force. For the next minute, I don't think I'm going to go over each and every one of these because I would like to... Inspiration. No, I understand, Estwild. Yeah, that's what I love about having discussions like this, is that we can open up these ideas, or we can throw the consideration in there of, well, here's what's presented, and here's maybe how you would run them differently, or this is something you do in your homebrew, because as this is indicated, this is his homebrew that he's presenting to you to act as inspiration fodder. So these are ways that you can customize the dragon's attacks. You know, so the same Emerald Dragon won't always be the same Emerald Dragon because it might do things differently. It'll act differently, and I think he's really trying to give you a lot of ways to get a lot more mileage out of these dragons than simply saying, well, it's a brass dragon. All brass dragons are the same. It really just comes down to the size, etc. But anyway, because I don't want to narrate everything, I will encourage you, look, pick this book up, give it a read, and look at this content yourself, and see if there's something in it, you know, here for you to customize your dragons. Emerald Dragons, one of the oldest species of gemstone dragons. The Emerald studied the lore of the sea and the unique chaotic boundary between the sea and land. It was the tide pools and estuaries that fascinated them, and they developed a theory of the timescape based on, that's his word for the multiverse, based on this intermingling. The estuarial hypothesis holds that the mundane world lies on an interspace boundary between the worlds, and for this reason, good, evil, chouse, and law all intermingle here. Their obsession with the oceans and their unique biologies and rhythms took them into the sea until after 10,000 generations, they were especially adapted to it. Their forelimbs atrophied until now all that remains of them are a handful of small bones that can only be seen via dissection. CR21. This is an ancient dragon. You're going to find a lot of high CRs here. Legendary resistance. That is going to make sense. Uses the psionic abilities as per above. They have some lair actions. On initiative count 20, dragon takes a lair action. The dragon summons a water elemental. The dragon casts control water. It does not require concentration to maintain. The dragon casts Thunder Wave. DC 22, by the way. And like their cousins of the chromatics and the metallics, they do have a regional effect. Intelligent creatures who sleep within 12 miles of an emerald dragon's lair dream of unending depths, tidal waves, starfish, and crustaceans on a calm sea, under solid white sky with constellations under the waters. Water dampens the dragon's mind speech, and as a result, their psionics have evolved to be stronger, to pierce this liquid veil. As a side effect, an emerald dragon's mind is so powerful that it interferes with the thinking portions of other creatures' brains, making it very difficult for them to maintain concentration on their spells. Their interest in our world and its relations to others makes them experts on the planes. Rumors speak of emerald dragons whose wings propel them naturally through the sea of stars that separates worlds, allowing them to travel at will to any plane. But this behavior has never been witnessed by mortals. Going down, so we have the adult is a CR 15, young is a CR 8, and a Wyrmling is a CR 3. Aww. So there's our example of an emerald. Ruby dragons. The rubies protect the knowledge of reality, which they call realitas, the essential thing that separates things from illusion. They alone understand the danger that illusionists present to the mundane world, because they alone know what even the most powerful spellcasters do not. Illusion magic, properly applied, could replace this reality. Starve it until it withers, replace it with a phantasm. They are happy to sequester themselves from the world, locking their knowledge away. But should a sufficiently powerful illusionist catch a glimpse of the power contained within their spells, they will wake, seeking mortals to help them prevent the end of the real. They believe that illusions are manifestations of this world, of beings, objects, and power from other worlds, and that, given the chance, those alien worlds would attack ours. They are measured and formal, slow to give trust. They like seeing things done properly, traditions obeyed and upheld. If you approach one with respect and introduce yourself properly and do not saw the air too much with your hands, then they will listen and grant you the opportunity to impress them. So maybe standoffish, stoic, you know? What is their regional effect? Intelligent creatures who sleep within 12 miles of a ruby dragon's lair dream of people they know, transforming into other people of places they've been, dissolving to reveal barren wastelands. Dragon manifests amplify at no cost, so these are those psionic abilities above. Dragon manifests the real at no cost. It does not require concentration, lasts for 10 minutes. And the dragon casts Dispel Magic. The spell automatically ends spells of 5th level or lower. For each spell of 6th level or higher on the target, make an ability check using the dragon's intelligence as its spellcasting ability. The DC equals 10 plus the spell's level. Ooh. That's... So the guardians of the real. Those who understand the nature of illusion. And we go through the different cycles of life for a ruby dragon here. Oh, wow. Huh. That's a thing, isn't it? Some more of the RP text about the gem dragons. Sapphire dragons. Eldest first, the sapphire dragons inspire awe in any who see them. They guard the knowledge of past and future and the power that lets one shift between them. They approve of the dwarves who impose the rigid rules of causality on the world and consider the remnant dominance of the elves, the woads, as a danger. Not a threat per se, because they know it is in the elves' nature to ignore past and future, but when mortals exploit this or discover the means to move through time or summon creatures from the past and future, then the sapphire dragons get riled up. Of course, because they guard this knowledge, they are also experts on it, and thus sometimes the best sages to seek out if you're in dire need. They'll aid adventurers using their knowledge to bend the rules of the timescape if they feel the danger warrants it. Being oldest, they are also the most reserved and taciturn. Even the young sapphires are aware of their species' place in history and expect to be treated with respect. They talk like old university professors who know they have tenure and expect everyone to hang on every word. $24 for the ancient. Look at that. Kind of gazing it up and down here. Nice CR24. Legendary actions. What can it do? Can make a wisdom detect. Can make a wisdom perception check. Can use a psionic ability. Or the dragon releases a wave of telekinetic energy from its mind. Every creature within 15 feet. And by the way, so 15 feet around an already a large presence on your map. Must make a DC 24 intelligence saving throw or take 2d6 plus 8 force damage and be knocked prone. The dragon can then move up to half its movement speed, which is 40 feet or its 80-foot hover. Whew. Lair actions. Second. On initiative count 20, losing ties. Okay, so yeah, that's when you get the lair actions. So the sapphire manifests flay in a 120-foot cone. Oof. The dragon manifests reflection at no cost. The dragon casts plane shift with a DC of 22. Yeah, so when it's done, like, I don't know, the adventurers are beating it up. I'm just going to go to a different plane. You know what? You all enjoy this. $24. These are the big boys. I mean, not that they didn't show that off with the art. I'm going over some quick things here. I mean, if you're watching this later on YouTube or the VOD, you know, you can pause and whatnot. I don't want to go over, again, all the minutia of what's in the dragons, because I want you to have this supplement. I want you to explore it. But I'm kind of hitting some of the highlights here. Even the Wyrmling is it's popping out of the egg as a CR4. Yeah. That is a big honking cone. And you know what? You can say, well, I'm going to hide behind a boulder. Mm-hmm. Topaz dragons. The youngest species, the most enthusiastic about the world, the ones you're most likely to meet, topaz dragons study magic obsessively, and their older kin consider this juvenile. When you're older, you will realize magic is just ancient interference from overlapping manifolds constrained by oblique functions. Well, poo on that. Look, I made a fireball. They're fascinated by it, and they collect scrolls and tomes like other dragons hoard gold pieces and gemstones, which the topaz dragons find vaguely threatening. Why was this obsession with gemstones in particular? Why would you sleep on a bed of them if you weren't trying to make a statement? I don't sleep on a bed of scales. Harumph. They all seem like absent-minded professors. They accumulate so much lore that they spend all their time categorizing it, and just when they have everything neatly filed away, they realize this one treatise doesn't fit any classification, and the whole thing must be redone from scratch. It'll take millennia at this rate. They're approachable and easy to talk to as long as you don't mind never getting a straight answer. You'd think they'd be experts on everything considering how many books they have, but the opposite is true. They can't imagine anything and defend it with references, many of which contradict each other. I like this art. There's just something really, I don't know, kind of energetic, kind of spunky about it, right? Let's see, what's going on with our ancient here? Ancients, okay, so they're younger, right? Hey, they are a reasonable challenge for a party of 4 level 20 characters. 4 level 20 characters may have a reasonable chance at bringing down an ancient dragon. Its lair actions. The dragon manifests another world at no cost. That it affects up to 4 creatures. Another world is one of the psionic abilities up above. The dragon remembers a 5th level spell it once researched and casts it. Its spellcasting ability is intelligence, and the save DC is 21. The dragon remembers counterspell and can cast it as a reaction within the next minute. Ooh. The dragon's spellcasting ability is intelligence. Pardon. Regional effect. Intelligent creatures who sleep within 12 miles of a topaz dragon's lair dream of ancient lore they never studied. And in these dreams, they hold conversations with sages, speaking languages the dreamer does not know. But the dream can speak, but in the dream can speak and understand. So we're not warping the physical world, right? The black dragon makes things into a morassy swamp. White dragon causes blizzards and unseasonably cold weather. You know, and so on and so forth. You know, these are more having an effect on the people living around it, the dreams you're having, the thoughts that you're thinking. Sonic shift. The Wormling is, yeah, it's a little less. So we've been seeing the average of 3. The Sapphire is 4. This one's clocking in at 2. And I mean, you can see how they grow up and they get more and more powerful. Amethyst dragons. The renegades of the jeweled dragons, the amethyst dragons, seek new knowledge and so manipulate mortals to do dangerous, even deadly things in order to push the boundary of the known. Other gemstone dragons are aware of this dangerous obsession but turn a blind eye to it. Perhaps they're afraid of meddling, or perhaps they look forward to benefiting from the new lore produced this way without having to get their hands dirty. The amethysts are sinister, manipulating, and scheming. They enjoy using the psionic manifestation form. Not all known manifestations are listed here. To disguise themselves as mortals and infiltrate colleges of wizardry. So, kind of on the boundaries. I'm trying to get their thing. They have no feeling or remorse for mortals and willingly drive them and ultimately sacrifice them if it means learning something new about the fabric of the timescape. When encountered, they are often conciliatory, deferent. They want to put you at ease to catch you off guard. They're helpful. They love helping mortals. They love making mortals trust them because it is a short path from trust to dependence. They cannot be trusted. Unlike flumps. I hear you can trust every flump you come across. I forget the name of the enemy in Super Metroid. It's not Ridley. It's a Krokorok or something. So they are a gemstone that does come across, I guess, neutral. So this would be, yes, they're neutral evil, but they're more neutral than evil, but they're definitely evil, but they're neutral evil. I'm trying to reconcile the first initial blurb and think how this is expressing themselves as. Well, it does say they're the renegades of the Jeweled Dragons. Because they're manipulative. I guess that makes more sense. I just had to do a double take reading on that. I like this this art very much. And much like a cat, it must stand in a circle too, apparently. Let's see. The Dragon Manifest believe at no cost. It manifests forget at no cost. I imagine then that should be italicized. If anyone out there is watching who can contact him with these little editing bits we come across. If it forces the target to forget a spell, the dragon knows that spell and can cast it using its spellcasting ability. Dragon manifests an illusion of a shifting battlefield. The terrain within 30 feet of it is considered difficult terrain until the end of the dragon's next turn. A CR22 for the ancient version. Intelligent creatures who sleep within 12 miles of an amethyst dragon's lair dream of an opulent party with a charming host to whom they willingly and happily reveal their deepest secrets. Hashtag seems legit. Feedback aura. Takes damage. All creatures within 30 feet must succeed on DC 18 intelligence saving throw. A lot of these are hitting int saves, by the way, which is kind of an underused save, in my opinion, for 5th edition. And so this is the DM going, aha, so you wanted to condense everything down, right? Wormling is a CR3. Kind of get back to the basics there. Gemstone Dragonborn. Much rarer than their metallic or chromatic cousins, the Gemstone Dragonborn are the result of powerful rituals. They are proud of their heritage. Because the Gemstone dragons are rare, so rare as to be considered mythical, it's not unusual for their humanoid descendants to pursue a great quest to find their ultimate progenitor, or just any Gemstone dragon, to get a sense of where they came from and prove the jeweled dragons are real. So your Gemstone traits. So here, we're getting a fun sub-race, or I guess an alternate for Dragonborn here. Your Gemstone ancestry is obvious to anyone who looks at you. You bear multifaceted crystals embedded in your scales, and your eyes are solid gemstones. In times of extreme emotion, the specific emotion varies from individual to individual. Your gemstones flare with light. Your int by 2 and wisdom by 1. Ooh, nice spellcasting intense Dragonborn. Gemstone Dragonborn mature quickly. Only a few months after birth, they reach adulthood by 7. So slightly different than a normal Dragonborn, who do accelerate aging, or they mature more quickly. 30 feet, crystal armor. Gemstone Dragonborn pride themselves in the vibrant glowing crystals embedded in their skin. The gems fuel their limited psionic abilities and grant them a natural armor bonus. They get a +1 bonus to AC. Limited psionics. You have 4 psionic charges, which refresh when you finish a long rest. You know Flay and Amplify. At your GM's discretion, you may learn more through adventuring and research. The DC for your psionic saving throws equals 8 plus int plus proficiency. So instead of a breath weapon, because you're not getting breath weapons with these dragons, you're getting the mind blasts. You are getting psionics. Languages, common and draconic, and there we go. You can hear the murmurs of the Gemstone Dragon mind speech within 1 mile. Ooh. So very good for roleplay as well. Very good for that. And it looks like our final section here are the Inexorables. The Inexorables, the Knights of Axiom, the plane of uttermost law, arrive at the summons of those devoted to opposing Chaos. Each Inexorable is charged with enforcing one of the laws that bind the universe together. They don't bother explaining this, and the nature of these laws and the Inexorables themselves remain a mystery to most mortals, few of whom have ever heard of the law of time or the law of death. Like the Celestial Court, the Inexorables do not have distinct physiologies, being more a manifestation of a deity. So while they can and do speak, it's not clear what their intention in the mundane world is. They hate the violation of law, this much is clear, but their notion of what counts as quote-unquote law is alien to mortal minds. How many Inexorables are there? No one knows. Only those who have visited the 5 cities of Ordos, the capital city of Axiom, can say. It is known that there are Inexorables greater and lesser than those described here. Probably there's an inexorable for the law of whichever side of the USB cable you try first, and will always be the wrong side, but it'd be like CR 1/2 and will probably be an adorable little maniac. Aww. The Inexorables are primarily infantry, eschewing ranged attacks, which limits them severely. The flip side of this, they're very easy to run. Magic is chaos. Each Inexorable has their own law, and there are many laws. But one force the Inexorables universally hate is magic. Magic is chaos made manifest. Magic is the tool chaos uses to disrupt the world. Almost all Inexorables are vulnerable to magic. It interferes with the perfect order of their logic, and moreover, it offends them. Its existence is anathema. Some Inexorables, however, can overcome this revulsion and maintain their purpose in the face of discord. The forces of law that grant the Inexorables the power to travel the planes, arriving when summoned to repair the damaged fabric of reality, also prevent their duty from being interfered with. When it comes to denying the Inexorables the opportunity to pursue their purpose, even the chaos of magic cannot stop them. The Inexorables are immune to any effects that would slow them or deny them actions or movement. So I guess that's the trade-off. The inexorable limitations of space forbid anyone from moving from point A to point Z without passing through the rest of the alphabet. Nothing as vulgar as teleportation is allowed on Axiom. The fundamental theorem forbids is a common refrain whenever space prevents someone from moving in a manner contrary to the strict laws of motion. A creature under the effect of a haste spell, for instance, gains the benefits of haste, except for the extra movement. They may attack, hide, or use an object, but cannot take a second movement action and dash or disengage. Space allows a second attack, or a second use of an item, because those are in the purview of time, and time may do what is necessary to enforce its law. Tactics. Space is the light infantry of the Inexorables, and pretty easy to use in combat. Fast like all the Knights of Axiom, Space uses its 40 feet of movement to get where it needs to be, to bludgeon its enemies. It prefers to focus on spellcasters, but obeys the commands of the creature who summoned it. So, the law of motion, no magical movement. Multi-attack. So, yeah, they scoot in and they try and pin people down. And they're light infantry here, as it's CR5, by the way. Death, the law of death. This microstate partition lacks sufficient entropy. I will repair. All things must end. The inexorability of death is not concerned exclusively with ending life. Its purview covers all things. Civilizations, ideas, stories, all things end. Death does not cause this ending, it enforces it. It arrives ready to stop something or someone trying to undo the law of death. Therefore, it focuses most on the undead, on those things persisting after their natural end. It also has the power to prevent a creature from meeting its end before its time. Why it is granted the power to use magic when magic is chaos and therefore anathema to the Inexorables is a question death does not know the answer to. It only knows it can prevent. Tactics. This thing is powerful, but not hard to run. Its law of death radiates damage to undead, but its death to undeath ability has an obvious use. But if there aren't any undead around, it'll happily wade into combat for you, just smashing things with its hammer-like fists. Really cool. So it has like 4 legs here, and just it faces out in these directions. The red string of fate is being wound around its fingers. Death to undeath. Death points to an undead creature within 60 feet. The target must make a wisdom saving throw or take 6d10 force damage. Half on a save. Ooh. And that's a CR6 creature. Change. A close cousin to the Inexorables of death and fate, the law of change states that what has been done cannot be undone. Change opposes any magical concept to reverse what is done, such as using magical healing to close a wound. You cannot rewrite the world. Of course, change knows who its master is, and being more sophisticated and complex in its order than either space or death, change can make subtle distinctions between friends and foes. The null entropy field that prevents magical healing near change only works on enemies. Lore is a tool. A tool used in the advancement of chaos must be stopped. But the pious do work with lore that benefits order. This I can ignore. Tactics. Change is more versatile than its simpler cousins. Its javelin grants it facility in both melee and ranged, something neither space nor death has. It's still not the powerhouse time and will are, but the laws that govern the multiverse are obscure for a reason. And there's a note here that Will's the prime inexorable who cannot be summoned. I'm liking the little like the ball wheel legs kind of scooting around like this. Uh-oh, we're ramping up. And so here we have Fate. What are you at? You are a CR8. The law of fate forces events to have predetermined outcomes, whether you like it or not. There is no chance there is no chance when fate is present. All things proceed as the universe intends, and neither good nor bad luck is possible. There is no inexorable of luck. Luck is a force of chaos. Fate is its enemy. Chance is the enemy of fate. Armed with the destiny light, fate inflicts perfect order on her enemies. Those who fail their saving throw against the beam may still be very effective in combat, as they no longer need worry about rolling poorly or well. All things thereafter proceed in a perfectly ordered fashion. Depending on the battle and the enemies you're fighting, forcing them to make all attacks with a 10 result on their die may mean they simply can't hit your more heavily armored allies, or they can't miss, so be careful with where you position fate. The Destiny Light makes an enemy always do average damage if they fail their save. This is incredibly useful against boss monsters with attacks that combine many dice and will give players a lot more certainty about what it can do. They will know, for instance, how many more successful attacks they can weather. Because Fate does not use dice, see the Law of Fate below, there may be enemies Fate simply cannot hit. Fate is not omniscient enough and won't know that until it tests an enemy. Once it fails to hit, it won't attack the same enemy again. Fate does not make attack rolls, always using a 12 as a result before applying bonuses, and cannot be affected by advantage or disadvantage. Fate does not roll damage, instead always taking the average result. Although damage dice are listed and the average can be calculated. Destiny Light recharges in a 5 or 6. Fate fires a beam of Destiny Light at a target it can see within 60 feet. The target must make a DC 13 con saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 8d8 necrotic damage, and it only deals average damage and uses 10 for its attack rolls, before bonuses, for the next 10 minutes. On a successful save, it takes half as much damage, and its attack and damage rolls are not affected. Interesting mechanic. Hey, TJ. Murray Crimble Gang. Welcome. Good to have you here, sir. Oh, we're ramping up even further now. Looks like time is clocking in at a CR9. Time is something of the hypocrite. Time is something of the hypocrite among the Inexorables, perfectly happy to speed things up for itself while denying the same ability to anyone else. Many of the Inexorables don't mind if their allies bend the rules so long as their enemies toe the line. And if this seems like commentary on the nature of law and how it tends to be applied, of course it is. Or is it? Maybe it's the opposite, says the author. Time enforces the rules of causality and ensures the past remains firmly behind the future in spite of attempts by creatures like the elves to muddy the waters. Those elves? Blah! The Inexorable of Time really doesn't like elves, by the way. The elves have an annoying habit of ignoring causality altogether. Time prevents enemies from taking bonus actions or reactions, which is very useful for players who want to maneuver around enemies without suffering attacks of opportunity. Like most of the Knights of Axiom, Time lacks ranged weapons, and thus it's barely effective against flying enemies. But if its target is on the ground, it's going to pummel the thing into oblivion. Between haste and time starting over. Between haste and time is inexorable. Time can act many times, moving around enemies while denying them opportunity attacks, and it can attack 7 times. Time prefers to focus on those enemies benefiting from haste, or who act on turns other than their own. And elves, of course. Time magically gains a +2 to its AC and advantage, so it's hasting itself. Interesting representation of it here. Time is inexorable. At the end of the round, after all creatures have acted, time takes another turn. Chief amongst the Knights of Axiom is nature. The law of nature states that all actions must proceed according to the fundamental axioms of the universe. Magic is a tool used by those who would bypass those laws and act on the world using their will alone. This cannot be permitted. Nature can reflexively attempt to counter a spell as it's being cast, pointing at the caster and bellowing, "Obey!" or "Confirm!" Or, I'm sorry, not confirm, "Conform!" Nature has no particular interest in the local phenomenon humans call nature. Plants and streams and such. To the Inexorables, nature is stars and elementary elementary particles. The world men inhabit is messy but legal as far as the Inexorables are concerned, until someone starts using magic. Nature's counterspell reaction has a range of 60 feet, so nature can pummel easy-to-reach enemies while keeping tabs on enemy wizards and denying them their spells. Nature also abhors creatures who travel to other planes under their own power, especially fiends and members of the Court of All Flesh. The Court of All Flesh! Whom the Inexorables hate above all others. Yeah, so just being able to shut down magic, ooh. Okay. So here we are, friends. We have gone through the new monsters that exist inside of this supplement that you can just run as monsters, you know, or as a boss, a villain, an ally, a manifestation of a god without using the rules of concordance and getting a servitor at a temple. This is homebrew. Take it home. Have fun with it. Do you like this concept and you want to make this, you say, oh, it kind of looks like a centaur. Oh, wouldn't that be something? So I'll make nature, but it'll be like a natural centaur instead. And have fun with it, right? Modify it. And hi, Volvo. Anyway, let's get up and take a break, everyone. And then the last part of the book we're going to be getting into here, let's discuss warfare. I'm not going to go through all, there's a lot of charts here. I will reference them. But I don't want to... I'm not going to tell you how to conduct warfare, but we're going to review warfare. And then lastly, as the final part of the workshop, we're going to dig into these codices and these other magic items. We started with magic items and we'll end with them. So let's take a bit of a break, everyone, and we'll be back soon.